Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you and the mercy of Allah and His blessings. I am Abdul Muid. My original name is Gregory Morse, and I'm making this video to inform the people about the persecution and psychological enslavement I've experienced at the hands of the United States government and a network of criminals who are operating within the ranks of all the intelligence and military organizations and have expanded their network throughout the world. So my story is extremely long, extremely complicated. This is a life I was born into, and a life of abuse, persecution, and all sorts of kind of nasty psychological nonsense. Some background about me. I was born in 1982. I was born in Los Angeles. About a year or two after, I moved to Cleveland, Ohio, with my mother and father, who had a custom designed house there built. Then I went to pre-kindergarten at Montessori school, a more elite school, followed by kindergarten and first grade through 12th grade at an all-boys school known as University School in Shaker Heights and Hunting Valley of Ohio. A very elite all-boys private school, preparatory school. Every single person there goes to college. After that, I moved on to college at Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And there I studied computer engineering, earning my degree in 4 years, after which I graduated and moved to California in the San Francisco area, where I lived with my girlfriend at the time, who I had met in college. And I worked for 2.5 years as a software engineer at a small network security company known as Info Express after I made it out there. And after that, I quit my job. My arms were suffering from so much pain. I had seen the doctor about the issue, and they were threatening a year of surgery. So I made the decision to just stop working. And after that, I ended up breaking up with my girlfriend, finished that off. And the next thing you know, Barack Obama was elected. I was working on my own project at home, taking it easy on my arms, letting them recover, which they slowly were. And then next thing you know, boom, my life exploded on me. I was being, a practice known as gang stalking, or organized stalking, vigilante stalking, however you want to label it. And it changed my world. I woke up to kind of the truth, the reality of America, the reality of my life that I had been missing, because before it had been so either covert or in a different manner done, until about exactly the time Barack Obama took office. At that point, I had, entire environment being designed. I was being assaulted by high-tech weaponry in my home. It completely, changed my psychology. I even developed kind of a mild post-traumatic stress disorder, just living in a home, doing a computer project, because things got very intense, gunshots going off, all sorts of stuff as I began to fight all the criminal activity and behavior going on, immediately in my surroundings, clearly targeting me. So, of course, all this, I'm going in brief. This is going to be a multi-chapter series where I'll go through each stage of my life, the different pieces of technology, the different aspects that are used for enslavement, the ultimate purpose of why they would choose me or want to do this to me, and other things, including kind of the psychology industry, the way America is controlling and running the world, and the reason it is a superpower. I will go through each part by part, since each subject deserves a great deal of detail and attention to itself, so that one can understand. Because most people, without going through the experience that I have, will at first think all this sounds, a little bit far-fetched, or just, it sounds not possible, because you haven't seen the reality of the technology of the people who are working in the intelligence community and in the military sitting in military bunkers behind computers all day with satellites, research satellites or surveillance satellites, and keeping everything, very quiet and secretive, even to the point of killing people who would expose it or putting them in jail and hospitals. Many different techniques they've used to cover up all these crimes. And there's history too of how the USA got all this technology and how this is a kind of a continuation from other stolen technology or taking people from other countries and putting them in the intelligence organizations to have complete control over not only the country but complete control over the world using different techniques and tools, and ultimately a war against the body, the mind, and ultimately the soul, the spirit. After experiencing this for a long enough time, my project that I was doing was a project that would attempt to show you what is true and what is not true on the internet, which is a very difficult project and very complex and kind of an intellectual activity, an exercise. And I largely derailed. I mean, it is not something easy to do, but I've always been a person who's always strove for the truth. I've always been the person who would, show up at any sort of social event and talk about everything that the government is saying is nonsense, or, whatever it is, be global warming, all these different political agendas and tools showing that these, must have ulterior motives. Even September 11th, I knew from almost the beginning that this was some sort of staged incident for political maneuvering purposes. So I've never been a person who's gone along with the mainstream. I've always been against the average person who just listens to what the media says and automatically believes it. So my goal has always been to strive for the truth and eliminate the falsehoods, which of course makes me, in a way, an enemy of the government. As they say, when everything is based on lies, the truth becomes the biggest enemy of the government, which is a statement from Nazi Germany. So this is where I was at. Ultimately, after my project kind of started falling apart, I was fighting with all the nonsense going on around me and my surrounding environment, and they started coming in my home when I was sleeping and literally doing something to my rectum. Literally, I would wake up in the morning, would have blood or pain, discomfort, gas, you name it, and I knew something was going on. So I started fighting with this. Then at one point my sister came and made a comment to the police after she had left. She just came briefly. She visited and then said that claimed that I was crazy and want to kill someone. And the police came to my house. 4 police officers showed up, and I answered all their questions. I said I'm not planning on harming anyone nor myself. And the next thing you know, they pretty much forcibly said you have to come with us to the hospital. They doctored a report up, made a whole phony incident about it. Said that nobody anytime actually men in America talk about having rape or anything, they're generally just insulted or labeled as crazy or whatever. You need psychological help. This is a general thing. This has happened to many people. This is not uncommon, not unusual. It's the way America works, does business. This is actually a type of psychological warfare that's used against many people. Homosexuality is psychological warfare in the USA that uses it almost everywhere. They even, the CIA even discussed using it against Iraq, against Saddam Hussein. And the military then said, yeah, we like this idea because the military intelligence community is full of this stuff. They're the ones who are, at the forefront of doing this kind of what I would call homosexual recruitment practice. So anyways, they put me in the hospital to do, the whole psych eval. And the next thing you know in there, the hospital have all these custom designed animals, what the government refers to as animals, people who have been hospitalized and literally turned into, by being medicated repeatedly and having people play with their heads, they've been turned into, very primitive, what you call animals. They can easily be controlled, have multiple personalities, Even the people at the desk at the hospital would call one man Gary and then George and then, different names. And he would act differently as each name was used. It would change his personality. And the hospital knew they were playing around. They knew what they were doing. So in the hospital, they try to give an experience. The psych eval is largely, nonsense. It's largely they're just, harassing you and seeing how you react. It's not even when they talk to you. It's actually just a little portion of it. A lot of it is just monitoring you while they put all these crazy people around you to see what you do. So I just kind of did nothing, just waited, patiently or, impatiently. It was not a fun experience. Talked to the doctors. Then they kind of forcibly say, you can blah, blah, blah. You have to wait 72 hours. We can hold you here. Or you can take medicine. They kind of basically say, you can take our medicine and we'll let you out. You sign an agreement that you'll do therapy, or you can keep waiting and waiting and waiting and wait to go to court, and we're going to make it so you can't sleep. We're going to make it so all these crazy people keep, harassing you, trying to make you crazy. They're pretty much, it's a threat. You could see the whole thing was literally a threat, a way to silence people. So this is the first thing, that the hospital is actually used as a silencing tool and as a threat. And so when I was in there, I took some medicine that they just said would make me sleep better. So I figured, okay, this will help me sleep. But I took this medicine and I slept for 16 hours. 16 hours, a very, very, very strangely long time. When I woke up, I kind of knew something funny had happened during my sleep. I wasn't sure what it was. And, shortly after I was discharged, I realized at that point that they had done some sort of hypnosis while I was sleeping. I started immediately kind of invoking the memories of some sort of hypnosis session. I knew something had been programmed into my brain. So I started thinking what it was, and then I realized for some reason I had to join the U.S. Army. I didn't know, where this came from, but I realized this was the ultimate form of a hypnosis session, and this is a common technique that the U.S. Army has used on people. So after this, I said, okay, I'm fighting these idiots. I'm going to, I'll do anything I need to infiltrate them. I don't care. I know what's going on here. They're not playing a game with me. No one's obviously going to help me with this. The police, all these different organizations. If you research gang stalking online, you realize that the network is very powerful, and either people are a part of it or they're afraid to do anything because they know what the consequences of having their life destroyed by fighting it. So I figured, okay, well, I'll infiltrate it. I'll do what I can to expose their secrets. I'm someone who fights for the truth, exposes the truth, and will only talk the truth. I will not tolerate their nonsense. So I talked to a military recruiter and started doing the U.S. Army recruitment process. It went simply and well. I realized that they were doing just classic homosexual recruitment nonsense the whole time. I'll go into this more in detail about how they do it later. It's not that complicated actually. It's rather simple. But obviously the people there were part of the network, so I played along with this. They made me see some kind of, as part of the deal to leave the hospital, I had to see some sort of psychotherapist. I also was just, nonsense with him. There was no reason to talk to him. I knew he was also playing the same exact psychology. They run denial scripts and other things. It's very obvious if you can see the formula they're using. So I, had no problem getting rid of him eventually, and I went along with the military. The military did their evaluation on me, said I was perfectly fine. There's no problem with me. Do everything physical, mental health. They do a full day of checking. So at that point, I was just enlisted to go into the army. I had not joined. I eventually got a job assigned to me that would be military intelligence analyst. So going along with what my specific skill set would match up with. So I kind of waited, and then I was going through their training or whatever, the pre-soldier, future soldier training. But I had not yet been accepted because you aren't actually in the army until you ship, and that ship date, then you're officially in. Then you're stuck in training and you cannot leave. But first you have to get, for intelligence analyst, it requires a top secret security clearance. A top secret security clearance requires a very thorough background check. So the next thing you know is that all nonsense is still going on, but I realized I have the FBI investigating me secretly. Now, this is technological.